A few months ago I was thinking how Poctopia would look like if it would be really Poctopia. Then I thought, hey, I used to do a lot of building in Minecraft. It was like 5 years ago, but this game couldn't change that much, right? It took me 3 or 4 days to build this map. When I finished, it was just after the Poctopia vs Manberg war, and I was still mind blown about Technoblade's secret bunker under his base. So that was an easy decision for me that I want to rebuild this part of DreamSMP. It took me a little bit more than previously, but I managed to finish it at the start of December. At this point I was thinking, what's next? New Technoblade base seems like a good idea, but I did not want to leave this map without Manberg, even if at that time it was already blown up. And this is the story of how I spent 4 months rebuilding Manberg from DreamSMP Season 1. Like I said, it started almost 4 months ago. Of course, the first thing I did was terrain. I watched a lot of DreamSMP videos, mainly those from War and Festival. When I was building Poctopia, I created a map with the same seed as the one on DreamSMP, just to do proper terrain. This time, I went one step further. I looked for a DreamSMP map on the internet, and I found one created by User. He was rebuilding DreamSMP but in the original way. This map wasn't perfect, but definitely helped me a lot. I spent like a week trying to adjust the terrain for my scale of the map. It wasn't obviously like 10 hours per day, more like 3 hours and not every day. When I'm doing terrain, I'm using 2 brushes in World Edit. One of them is a sphere and the other one is a cylinder. As material, I'm using sand, because sand due to gravity will always fall, and I don't want to have flying blocks on my map. After that, I am doing some smoothing, and I am changing sand to proper material. I need to learn one day how to use World Painter, because as much as I love World Edit, making the whole terrain with this tool took me definitely too much time, and after a week I thought, I'm done with the terrain for now. I need to start doing something else, otherwise I could spend a whole month doing a landscape. And in the end, I would need to change it a little bit anyway. So this is how I created the first structure in Manberg, and it was Camorvan. First, I rebuilt the original one, then I added some holes, granite to imitate rust, and a lot of trees and bushes to add a forgotten vibe to it. After that, I rebuilt one of those 2 towers. I knew that the second one is like a sibling to this one, and knowing that I can copy-paste this anytime with World Edit, I did not bother with that at this time. It was the end of December, and then this time I knew that I definitely won't make it by the end of 2020. Moreover, because of extramural studies and end of semester, I knew that making it by the end of January would be hard as well. I could just give up at this point, but no. I started to do weekly updates on my Instagram account. With this, I was kind of forcing myself to build at least something every week. And this is how I created the Tobus Docks, or what I can call it, Port of Manberg. There are 2 structures. One of them is very similar to the original one, but the second one, on DreamSMP, it was never finished. So I turned it into like medieval crime. Like the one in Poland, and The Witcher 2 and Witcher 3, Anno, Quadropolis, and probably many other games. I also started Nikachi House, but I actually finished it 2 months later in March. The next thing that I rebuilt was probably the most recognizable building in Manberg, and that was the podium. The building was pretty easy to build. Because it is an iconic building, I had to make it as close to the original as I could. As you can see, there are 2 waterfalls, a little garden, throne, bed, big S letter, 2 purple banners and a lot of blackstone. Beside the podium I also recreated the square and NASA building, but only from outside. I didn't have time for the interior. Next building was Party Island. I thought that it should be easy. And boy, I was so wrong about this. This f***ing fucking party island. Island itself wasn't hard to build, but the fucking main statue, as well as the coaster. I was trying to build this statue before Reddit. I did like 4 different statues, and all of them were so ugly. Then I thought maybe I need to change my method, and I started building this by hand. And oh boy, that decision was on point. I finally was happy about the design, but the coaster, I think, was even worse. It's so hard to make a cool looking and also walking coaster in Minecraft. You are so limited. You either go straight, curve, or one block up or down. And when you're trying to go diagonally, you're starting to lose all of your momentum. I was redesigning the coaster and redesigning. Finally, also there, I managed to make something I was content about. The rest of the island was easy peasy. When I'm building, I'm changing brightness to 100, not in the game, but in a Minecraft option file. Because of that, it is always like a day in my game, so when I want to add some light, I need to turn on shaders, because that's easier than restarting game every time I want to add some lights. Going next, Limantry and the final control room. I knew that Limantry needed to be something big. It was the oldest tree in the area, and knowing how big Old Oaks looks like, I tried to make something like that on my map. I made a little hill. On DreamSMP it also was on the little hill. And I started building the tree. When I'm doing trees, I'm starting from the base, trunk first, then I'm adding branches. In this situation, I had to add a lot of them. After that, it's time for step 2. I'm using World Edit with command brush sphere oak leaves 1, and then I'm adding air mask. That command is very important because when leaves are far from the other blocks, in that situation from wood, they are starting to disappear. And because of this mask, I was only replacing air blocks to leaves, leaving wood untouched. I'm always adding leaves only at the end of the branch, and when I'm done with that, I am filling gaps with the rest of the leaves and manually trying to remove some leaves and add more in places when I feel like they should be. Very important for me is to remove all shapes that looks like a plus. So the building, even if it is created by the help of World Edit, doesn't look like it was created by that tool. I also made path to this tree and a little picnic area with hanging branch. At the bottom of the cliff I made an entrance to the final control room. Similar to the camera van, this is a very odd building. My goal was to make it look like forbidden and abandoned for years. Originally, the final control room was like a shelter. This is why I put a big door there, like in a atomic hatch. You all know about 4 cannon deaths there. This is why I put it 4 skulls there, signifying the fallen Wilbur, Tommy, Tobo and Fundy. A few months later, we all heard it was never meant to be. Once again, but this time not from Eret, but from Wilbur. And the place where he managed to detonate TNT was the next thing that I was going to rebuild. I made a whole cave system inside the podium hill, and the entrance is also behind a big peepee. You might saw that I'm putting stone slabs and stone stairs everywhere I'm doing rocky formations. 7 years ago when I was building, there wasn't those blocks in the game. When I was building Poctopia and I found out that they added those, I was like, okay, now I'm going to put them everywhere. I mean, with stone slabs and stairs, caves look so much better, doesn't they? Beside the cave itself, I relocated some TNT, mainly under the square. I made a little basement there, something like a medieval basement or like a granary for provisions. But in that case it was mainly for TNT. And then I created a short teaser trailer for this map. Even if this map is already out, I think this video is still enjoyable as a standalone video. The next update I called Many Things, because I rebuilt many smaller things, like graveyard, ruins of White House, Jack's house, but only from outside, and the bench above Henig house. After that, I went underground to make Tubo's library. I have tried 2 different library designs before I came up with this one. I have never built a fancy library before. I mean, I also never built many other things like a big coaster or a big sculpture, but with the coaster and Pokimane statue, I think those buildings are okay. I am really happy with the library. I only had one problem, and that was with the enchanting table. I wanted it to be on level 30 and to look cool. If it would be in the room or something, that would be easy. But because it was in the middle of the room, I came up with the idea that some of the blocks might come up from the floor with redstone mechanism. There was just one tiny problem. I am bad at redstone. Like, really bad. I was struggling for like an hour, but finally I did it. After that, I hung a ball, made a big stairs and dug a big hole. And this is how I created entrance to Manberg. I had a little problem with those stairs. Now with building them, but I just have a lack of ideas how I want them to look like. I have watched a couple of DreamSMP videos, but every time I was trying to build them, I just didn't like the shape of them. Then I took a screenshot of this landscape and added curvature in the graphic editing software. I started making them once again. This time, I was happy with the result. The hole, even if I was thinking that it would be hard because it is just an ugly hole in the ground. Like, who would have thought that digging a big hole in the center of city is going to be a great idea? But that was actually pretty easy to recreate. I turned it into a very steep open mine. With the ball, I used slabs and stairs to make it smoother. Also, the ball is a little bigger than the original one. At this point, it was already mid-March, and I needed to hurry up to finish this map in the first quarter of 2021. I had a short break in studies between semesters, so every day when I came back from work, I spent the time playing Minecraft. I read it on DreamSMP wiki that cobblestone from the pit was used to build a tower. That was my next goal. Original one was created 100% from cobblestone. I was trying to make mine also only with cobblestone, but that was so ugly that I had to change it into something nicer. I have built a lot of round towers in Minecraft, but probably I never built a square one. And I was really surprised how fast, easy and fun was building this one. Church. I assumed that this building, because it has a cross on top, was a church. I completely changed the shape of this building and material, but only to a darker shade of wood. Instead of building fighting ring, I built an open-aid theater. I mean, theater can be changed into ring, especially for festival purposes, right? And I think it looks cooler and fits better into this hill. I did some finishing touches with NASA building. Square was simple. I added a rocket in front of the building, but that didn't fit there, so I moved it inside. Beside the rocket, I was struggling with the rest of the interior. But not because it was complicated or something. I would say it was hard because I had no idea how to make futuristic looking things that are small enough I can put them into a museum. And looking through the internet for inspirations doesn't help me that much. So don't ask me what is the meaning of the decorations inside, because I don't know either. And coming to the end, I thought it would be fun to add a big ship in Tubo's docks. I have built a couple ships in my building career, but all of them were pretty small in comparison to what I was going to build, and still I saw a lot of bigger ships, so mine isn't something really big. Anyway, building this ship was really fun for me. At first, I made a skeleton of this ship, where I specified how long and wide it should be. To speed up my building, I was doing only half of the shape and then I copied, flipped it and pasted it to the other side. While doing interiors, I found on the Reddit pics or more like schemes of the ship from Return of the Obra Dinn, and listening to the magnificent music from that game and inspired by those schematics, I was building the interior. After that, I only had to add some trees around Manberg, finish terrain between it and Poctopia, and add some festival decorations, like stalls, ice rink, some banners, and festival minigames. Also at this time, I was finishing interiors in the rest of the buildings. I almost finished it by the end of the March, but every detail I was adding, I saw a few more details to add. In the end, I relocated 27 feathers around the map, so when you download this map, you at least have something to do. Finally, I call it a day. After 4 months, the map was finished. In the meantime, they managed to destroy Manberg twice. This map is based on DreamSMP Season 1, and in real life, it is like half of 3rd season. It took me definitely too much time to build, but what can I say? I'm just a busy guy who just wanted to make something cool.